Hey, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, SPC-205. Once again, I'm your public speaking instructor, Vic McInnes, coming to you live on tape from the vaccine-rich campus of Aiken Technical College here in the lovely heart of the greater Graniteville, South Carolina metro area. Aiken Technical College, remember, your number one choice for higher education in Aiken County. Hey, class, today we're going to be talking about the audience. And in talking about the audience, I want to start with a quote from Thomas P. Tip O'Neill. Tip O'Neill was a Democratic congressman from Boston. He served in the U.S. House of Representatives for 34 years, from 1953 to 1987. He is known historically as one of the great speakers of the House of Representatives. He held that role from 1977 until he retired in 1987. Most of that was during a period of time when Ronald Reagan was president. But Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan had a great working relationship, even though they came down on opposite sides of a lot of political issues. They were able to work together and got a lot of great stuff done. Tip O'Neill's greatest single quote is probably this: "In America, all politics are local." O'Neill knew that for any policy to be relevant, to be interesting, to have a hope of success, you had to make it vital on a local level. You had to get the local people interested in it, because people don't generally think of broad scope things. They want to know how it's going to impact them. Okay? And so today, when we're talking about the audience, and we're going to be talking about audience analysis and how we do audience analysis, you know, we can talk about Aristotle, and you'll hear more about Aristotle and how important the listener or hearer is when we get to listening toward the end of the course. Okay? But it all boils down to what Tip O'Neill said. If you can't make your speech relevant to the people who are listening to it, you're wasting your time. Okay? Every speech has to be different. Prime example, there was I used to work for a veterans nonprofit over on the other side of the river. And there was a veterans event that was targeted for post 9/11 veterans. And we invited the local congressman, who will remain nameless. He got up there, talked about how much he loved veterans, and then he launched into this boilerplate speech that he had talking about Vietnam veterans. It had nothing to do with anybody in the audience. And I walked up over to one of his aides and said, "Hey, listen, these guys are post 9/11 veterans. They don't care about Vietnam. I mean, they care about them, but this isn't really relevant to them." And the aide went, "That's his veteran speech." Okay? It went over horribly. It became a standing joke within our community that we could get that congressman to come in and give that same speech over, and everybody would just roll their eyes and laugh. Okay? In America, all politics are local. When you're giving a speech, it has to be relevant to your audience. Okay? So let's talk about how we do that. So the first thing you have to do is you have to demonstrate relevance. You have to demonstrate relevance. And there's four principal ways to demonstrate relevance. Three principal ways to demonstrate relevance. First of all, demonstrate timeliness. You have to show your audience that your topic is relevant right now, not 100 years from now, not 50 years from now, but you need to make sure that they understand that the information you're giving them, or the change of behavior that you're looking for, has to be done right now, or they're not going to care. Okay, you can say it affects your grandchildren and people are going to go, okay, but why do I need to do something today? Why do I need to change my behaviors right now? Okay? Smoking campaigns. Always used to, whenever I was a kid, we'd always have these smoking campaigns where it would say, you'll get cancer when you're old. I mean, we were 14, 15 years old. We didn't care. Getting old, I remember back when I was a kid thinking the year 2000 was way off in the future. Okay? So you have to demonstrate timeliness. You must be relevant to the particular audience you are in front of and not some sort of collective you in the future. It has to be relevant right now. You have to demonstrate relevance through proximity. It has to be relevant here. Okay? If I told you if we don't take action on global warming right now, right, the island nation of Vanuatu is simply going to cease to exist. It'll disappear. It'll get washed into the ocean. Probably most of you don't even know where Vanuatu is, and don't feel bad. Okay? It's a little island nation in the Coral Sea between Fiji and New Caledonia. It's just a little string of islands. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure if I could tell you why you should care about Vanuatu as opposed to somebody who lives down outside of Charleston. I couldn't make that case. But if I was to look at you and say, if you don't worry about, if we don't fix global warming, flooding in and around Charleston in the low country of South Carolina is going to become more and more prevalent. It is going to cost you, South Carolina taxpayers, $1 billion a year. That's just in the next 15 years. And then it's going to get even more expensive than that. And that's not Vanuatu. That's the taxpayers of South Carolina. And we're going to expect you to pay that here in South Carolina. Okay? You have to make it relevant to the people in the audience in their locality. Then you need to demonstrate personal impact. Personal impact. What does it mean to me? Why do I care? Okay? Yeah, hey, listen, you don't care about global warming? How'd you like to pay 3 times more for your groceries than you're currently paying? Right? Are you willing to pay that to continue with doing what you're doing right now? Or would you rather make some changes and try not to get to that point? How about the fact that wildfires in California are costing all of us billions in taxpayer dollars for the recovery? Okay? Personal impact. So we demonstrate relevance to the audience through timeliness, proximity, and personal impact. Now, the first thing you need to know when you're talking about your audience is you need to determine the audience's initial disposition on your topic or on your ideas. Where is the audience when you start the speech? Where are they? Because if you want to move them to C, and they're all the way back down here at A, that's going to be a different speech than if they're already at B. A would require a change of attitude. B would require you to reinforce an attitude or build on an attitude. Okay? First things first. How do you do it? Once you determine their initial disposition, that allows you to find common ground or find your commonalities. What do we agree on? Find unity. Find what you can agree on. Draw on common experiences. Use second person and first person plural pronoun. Say we. Say us. Okay? Because when you build that bond, you begin to build your own credibility and your own ethos. And that is what we need to focus on, really. Because ever since Aristotle, it has been accepted that your credibility is going to depend on how successful your speech is. Okay? How well you can deal with their questions, how well you can present information, and how you adjust to each audience and what they're going to ask you, and the fact that you're prepared shows not only that you're smart, but that you care about them individually. Okay? It allows you to establish trustworthiness and also allows you to be personable, to be able to engage the audience in conversation. Makes you more of an agreeable presenter. Not somebody that you would necessarily agree on everything you say. Just somebody that's nice to be around and talk to. Okay? We've talked about ethos, pathos, and logos. Okay? Aristotle considered ethos to be the single most significant thing that a speaker could have to make them effective. All right? Remember, ethos is not your credibility, it's your audience's perception of your credibility. And here's how we build that credibility. Be competent. Be trustworthy. Show similarity. And again, you don't have to say, hey, look, we're all exactly the same ethnicity. We all go to the same church. But we can all have some sort of commonality, something we share. We're all residents of South Carolina. We all live in Aiken County. Okay? It can be something as simple as that. There needs to be some sort of attraction. Okay, and usually when somebody asks me, well, how do you define attraction? I say mainly just don't be repellent to them. And by repellent to them, I don't mean, act like an insect repellent. I mean, just don't come in and right off the bat have something about your person that's going to alienate them. All right? So if you're addressing the Republican Club of South Carolina, Aiken County, South Carolina, and you walk in with a t-shirt that says, should have voted for Hillary, you're not going to get very far with them. Okay? And then you need to act sincere. Do you need to be sincere? Well, we could debate that all day long, but you certainly need to give the impression that you're sincere. Okay? So that's how you build ethos. Now let's drill down and figure out how we learn more about the audience. Where do we get our information from and how do we analyze the audience? Ideally, you should try to tailor each and every single message for each and every single audience. Yeah, you may have a core theme or a core idea. Okay, let's take for example, I have no idea if this is going to happen, but let's take for example, Aiken Regional Hospital is going to build a new wing. You're responsible for that. There's going to be a bond issue. And then the county's going to have a bond issue and everybody gets to vote on it. You're going to be talking to 3 groups. First group is going to be student nurses at Aiken Technical College. Second group, Chamber of Commerce of Aiken, South Carolina. Third group, it's going to be bankers in New York who once the bond issue is approved by the voters of Aiken County, they're the guys that are going to have to actually write the check and loan you the money. Okay? Are you going to give the same speech to everyone? Absolutely not. It's going to be why we need this new hospital. Okay? But for that first group, student nurses, you want their approval? One word, jobs. Are you looking for employment as a nurse here in Aiken County? This new wing is going to employ 350 new nurses of all levels. That would sound pretty good to a group of student nurses, knowing that when they graduate in a year and a half, they're going to have a new job. Number 2, Chamber of Commerce. Jobs are relevant, but those are business leaders. Those are people that already own businesses. What you're going to tell them is how many millions of dollars this new wing to the hospital is going to bring into Aiken County. Millions of dollars that people are going to want to spend in their businesses. And to the bankers in New York, real simple. Here's how much money this wing is going to generate so that we can pay you back? Is it the same speech? It's the same topic. It's the same idea, but it's a radically different speech every single time. And you would have to be able to answer questions that are going to be radically different on each one. The bankers in New York are not going to be asking, hey, listen, how much are you going to be paying your nurses by the hour? The business leaders are not going to ask, how quickly can you repay that note? The nurses are not going to ask you, how many millions of dollars is this going to bring into businesses in the local community? So you have to be prepared to answer the questions that are going to be answered and show specific data that's relevant to each of those three audiences. So where do we find all that out? Well, let's talk about some methods of analysis first, how you would look at your audience and how you would examine them. The first method of analysis is demographics. Demographics is a statistical analysis of your audience. Okay? Say, what percentage of them have college degrees? What's the average earnings of the people in your audience? What's the racial makeup of your audience? What's the, how many people go to church? What's their income? I've already said income levels. Education levels. All of these things that you can break down into quantifiable statistical analysis. Gender, age, there's any number, there's a million different categories. And we'll talk about where you can find that information in just a minute. Okay? There's purpose-oriented. What about my audience is important to what I want to accomplish here? This isn't purpose-oriented in examining your audience. This is purpose-oriented in what do I need to know so I can get what I need? Okay? Then another one is psychographic analysis. What values, opinions, attitudes, beliefs does my audience hold that are going to be important to building my credibility and ethos and achieving my goal for this speech? How do I appeal to these, when I was working for that veterans nonprofit, I had the easiest thing in the world. What value does everyone share in the United States? Just about everybody. Especially in Georgia, South Carolina. Man, everybody loves veterans. I could walk into an organization and say, hey, we're here to help veterans, and they'd just pull their checkbooks out. And I wouldn't have to say much more than that. Okay? So where are you going to get your data for this analysis? And if I ever ask you a question, formally, where are you going to find this? If you say the internet, that is never the right answer. First source. Mass media. Every TV and radio station in any town you're going to go to now is going to have a web presence. And they're going to have a list of local news stories. I mean, even I live way over in Grovetown, and there's a house about less than 400 or 500 yards from us that burned. That was like the front page of that was just one house in Grovetown, Georgia. And for every TV station here in the CSRA, that was their banner thing, the house burning. So small stories local to the community are going to get big coverage. You want to know about national stories, go to CNN, go to Fox, go to MSNBC. But if you want to know what's still going on in the local area, go to those local radio stations and TV stations. Okay? Look at the local newspapers. The Augusta Chronicle, I think it's the Aiken Star. They've even got a paper over in North Augusta. And I say even, not because North Augusta doesn't have news, but because North Augusta is a fairly small market. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution would work because they have stories relevant to the whole state, whatever the paper is up in Columbia. And those TV stations in Atlanta and Columbia. You might even also, if you're given a talk in the Low Country, Charleston, look at all their mass media outlets. Okay? Find out about the organization you're going to be addressing. The Kiwanis, the Lions Club, the Daughters of the American Revolution, the Masons, everybody has an online presence. And if they don't, ask. You can find out what the overall purpose of the organization. Say you're being asked to come address the Veterans of Foreign War group. Those people aren't going to have a very strong web presence. Trust me. So what do? When you get invited to speak, the person is on the phone with you. Hey, tell me about the background history of your organization. When was your post founded? How often do y'all meet? How many members do you have? What are you guys working on as far as, what's your emphasis for the members this year? What specifically are you guys doing? Okay? Find out as much as you can about the organization. Have conversations with local people. Best place to find information about what's going on in town in the South? Waffle House. Go to a Waffle House at 9 o'clock on some night and sit around and talk to the waitresses and the cook. Get the bar seat and just ask them, hey, what's going on in Aiken these days? They will give you an earful, and they will tell you everything you need to know. Yeah, go, ask when you check in, if you're flying into a town you've never been to before, ask the people that work at the hotel. Hey, listen, I'm here to talk to, the Chamber of Commerce tomorrow. What's going on in Aiken these days? They might be a little hesitant to talk to you, but most people will talk to you about their hometown, where they live. Most people are either very proud of where they live, or B, they really hate where they live, and they're willing to express those to you and give you some good background information. Okay? There's public opinion polls. Be very careful of these, though, because you need to make sure you understand who's doing the asking and what they're asking. That'll be covered in mass media. Okay? And then finally, there's government agencies. The foremost of these, especially for demographic information, is the U.S. Census Bureau. The Census Bureau is going to have tons of information for you. I could go to the Census Bureau right now and probably in about 2 or 3 minutes tell you how many percentage, what the percentage of families are in Aiken County that are single parent families. I could, within 2 minutes, go to the Census Bureau and tell you what the mean or median income is for Richmond County over in Augusta. I could go to the Census Bureau and within a matter of minutes get the age breakdown for the entire CSRA, because they break down in intergovernmental units like that in some cases. The Census Bureau has got a ton of information. And it's also very helpful because they'll break things down like level of education, income, race, even to, you can find some government agencies, and not the Census Bureau necessarily, that will tell you how many churches there are. Locally, Aiken County, the Chamber of Commerce and the Aiken County government will tell you how many churches there are, how many hotels there are, how many hotel rooms there are in Aiken County. You can find that out from the Aiken County government. Okay? And those are all great data points to have. Once you get all of this, you then have to begin a process called audience adaptation. Through audience adaptation, you're going to want to modify and adapt your supporting materials. Sure, the nursing students at Aiken Technical College may be a little interested in how long it's going to take you to pay back the loan for the building. So you may want to have some sort of overarching, supporting materials for that. But clearly, when you go talk to the bankers, you're going to have that in detailed and locked down. What the nursing students are going to want you to have locked down in your supporting materials is average salaries working at Aiken, projected salaries at Aiken Regional Hospital as opposed to Augusta University Hospital. So you're going to want to adapt your supporting materials. You're also going to want to adapt your organization. If the audience is hostile, you're going to want to spend more time building commonalities, working on common ground, making sure that you share certain values before you jump into the part they're really not going to be appreciative, they're really hostile toward. Is that unethical? No, absolutely not. If the audience is already in agreement with you, you can skip over all of that part and go straight for what you need from them. You can zip through that and spend most of your time on, this is what I need you to do next. This is the change of behavior I need to get from you. If they're hostile, you're going to have to spend a lot more time walking through why they need to do that. Okay? Then finally, remember dialogic theory. Watch for feedback and cues from the audience during your speech. Because you should not be totally befuddled as to how your speech went over. Yeah, you might go, yeah, I'm not really sure it went that well. Well, what that means is, yeah, you don't think it went that well. Okay? Now, and yes, I've still got a very dry throat. There's something about this building this semester that's drying my throat out. Okay, here's something you need to remember. So a lot of people have this idea that once I get out of that speech, I am done. But write this down. Audience adaptation is an ongoing process. Audience adaptation is an ongoing process. Just because you finish the speech doesn't mean you're done. Anytime I give a speech, I immediately reach out to the people who ask me to come give the speech and say, hey, listen, how do you think that went? You think it went okay? You think it was good? What could I have done better? Is there anything what was the feedback you got from the people who were there? Because audience adaptation is an ongoing process. And if you don't adapt to your last audience, you're probably going to have a problem adapting to your next audience. Something that worked with this audience might well work with the next audience. Okay? You call up and say, hey, listen, I appreciate you inviting me. Really was wondering if you got any feedback from the people who were there as to how the speech went. Hey, listen, everybody loved your speech. They really loved how you made it relevant to them and the economics of Aiken County and how it's going to benefit their pocketbooks. They were really great and enjoyed that part. That's what really was meaningful. Well, you're going down to Jefferson County, Georgia to give the same speech. Are you going to want to talk to them about how great it's going to be for the people up in Aiken? No. But you know that audience analysis say they are of relatively similar initial disposition. You know that the economics piece worked in Aiken County. Pretty good reason to believe it's going to work in Jefferson County as well. So you just update your data to show your supporting materials to show the people of Jefferson County, Georgia, that it's going to have relatively the same impacts. Okay? Audience analysis is an ongoing process. And again, remember that Aristotle's model from On Rhetoric, which was published in 350 BC and is still a relevant communications textbook, says that it's the effect you have on the audience that makes everything in communication worthwhile, and how you measure the effectiveness of your communication. Okay? And we're going to talk about listening toward the end of the course. I got to get through all of this so that we can get you up and running, so that you can start giving graded speeches relatively soon. Okay, that's it for the day. Where are we at? We're at 31 minutes and 7 seconds. That's a good length for an online lecture. Okay? That's it. Again, remember, you can always contact me via email. You can set up an appointment. I can meet with you with precautions on campus, and I can also meet with you via Zoom if you want to do it that way. So don't hesitate to contact me. Stay safe, and we will be in touch.